Alrighty, well, welcome everybody to our Lunch and Learn presentation, and good afternoon. And welcome to those on TV, watching on TV or on the internet. We're glad to have you too. My name is Sarah Turgeon, and I'm an MSU dietetic intern working here at MSU Extension with Monica for a couple weeks. So.
Hello, and my name is Sherika Mitchell. I am also an MSU intern, currently doing my rotation here at MSU Extension. And today we'll be talking about the value of your thirst, and we would like everyone in the audience and online to ask themselves the question, are they aware of the nutritional impacts and values of their beverage choices? We also wanted to let everyone know online and people in the audience that MSU is an affirmative action, equal opportunity employer, and that offers nutritional assistance to people of low income. Some of the things that we would like the people in our audience and individuals online to learn from our presentation is to acknowledge the nutritional impacts in beverages that impacts your health, and also understand the difference between the cost and the nutritional value of these beverages. The first objective will be discussed by Sarah, and I will discuss the second objective.
Okay. Great. And before we get started, we just want you to know we're going to be talking about six common beverages. The first being coffee, moving on to sports drinks, energy drinks, fruit drinks, pop, and then finishing up with water. So just so you're kind of aware. So starting off with coffee, do we have any coffee drinkers out there? Yes, me too. It is the best part of waking up sometimes. So anyway, okay, getting started here with coffee, we're going to look at just some of the nutritional benefits or health benefits to coffee, or any benefits rather. So as we see here, it may reduce the risk of diabetes, Parkinson's disease, we have colon cancer, cirrhosis of the liver, and even asthma. Of course, coffee actually has a lot of antioxidants, which is beneficial for preventing cancer and cardiovascular disease even, so that's a plus. Coffee is actually a mood booster. It's probably one of the reasons we like to drink it. It's one of the reasons I like to drink it. It's also known as a headache reducer as well. And of course, it improves concentration. So for those college students staying up late might be a benefit. So coffee and caffeine pretty much go hand in hand, unless you're drinking decaf. But decaf even does have a little bit of caffeine too. So caffeine is actually known to be a drug, and it stimulates the central nervous system. It increases dopamine levels in the brain, so that's probably why it has an effect on our mood, actually. It also raises the heart rate and our blood pressure. It increases fluid loss because caffeine is what is called a diuretic, which means it pulls the water out of our system, so something to remember. And it also releases stress hormones too, was what I found, which can actually have an effect on our immune systems. And then, of course, too, coffee increases production of stomach acid. So having coffee on an empty stomach might be an issue for some. So it's probably better to have it with some food. So if there's a recommendation for coffee, or caffeine rather, it's 200 milligrams a day, or roughly 2 to 4 cups, depending on the the brewing style and the strength of it. So we are going to take a quick look at homemade option versus the coffee shop. So with our homemade coffee, we get more control because we can put however much sugar we want into it, or however less. Same thing with fat. So we tend to have more control as well as with caffeine content because we brew it. We can kind of keep track of that and brew it to the strength that we like. It of course tends to be cheaper. I know I purchased the little jugs of it, and I think I get 90 cups per jug, and it's around like $5 or $6 or something like that. So moving on to the coffee shop coffee, we have less control because we don't necessarily always know how much sugar or fat is in our coffees purchased from our local coffee shop, unless you're very specific and you're asking. We also don't know necessarily how they brew their coffee, so it might be very strong, it might even be weak, but we just don't necessarily know. And of course, it tends to be more expensive. I know Sherika and I went to the coffee shop a week ago or so, and I spent like $5 on like a little 8-ounce cup of one of their specialty coffees. So kind of crazy. We are going to take a look here at, this is a very extreme example. It's 24 fluid ounces, but just to kind of see what's out there. So we're getting 573 calories almost in this particular drink, about 12 grams of saturated fat, 375 milligrams of sodium almost. We're getting about 79 grams of sugar here. And down below, we have 150 milligrams of caffeine. So just kind of something to be aware of, what's out there. Okay, so some of the overconsumption risks here are mostly related to the caffeine content, and that's between 500 and 600 milligrams a day, and that's roughly 5 to 6 cups, again, depending on the brewing of the coffee. So we get anxiety, restlessness, irritability, muscle tremors, sleeplessness, dependency, headaches, abnormal heart rhythms, gastrointestinal issues, fluid loss, because remember it's a diuretic, it sucks the water out of us, and weight gain depending on what's in our coffee drinks that we purchase or what we add to them. So.
Okay, so we want to talk about our beverages. And one of the things that I wanted to focus on in comparison the cost and the nutritional value of the beverage is sugar. So we're going to use the sugar as our control when doing so. So the United States Agriculture Department advises for an individual who consumes a 200,000 calorie diet a day, 10 teaspoons of sugar. So just to get a picture of 10 teaspoons of sugar, 1 packet of sugar is 1 teaspoon. So when you're going and making your coffee and you add 1 packet, you're adding 1 teaspoon. So throughout the presentation, I'm going to be using packets and also relating it to teaspoons, but kind of associating the 1 teaspoon to the 1 packet. So I wanted to help you guys understand that, also to people online. So let's talk about coffee. Just like Sarah pointed out, coffee does have some nutritional benefits, some of that being high blood pressure, diabetes, and cancer. And I made a table that shows some of the different places that we receive our coffee. As she pointed out, the homemade brewed coffee, if you purchase a 2-pound gallon or tub coffee, it'll be $8.88. For each one in there, let's say that says it makes 140 cups, that's 8 ounces, you would be paying 6 cents per cup. And then when we look at the sugar content, with no sugar added, just black coffee, it'll be 0 teaspoons of sugar, which is no packets added of sugar. And you have 100 milligrams of coffee. So let's say you don't like black coffee, it's disgusting, I'd rather add some sugar and some creamer to it, which most people do, which probably some of you did today. And we are adding 2 teaspoons of sugar and 1 little thing of creamer. Well, that's going to be 8 cents per cup if we have the same 2-tub container for $8.88. And it's going to have 4 packets of sugar, which is 3.5 teaspoons of sugar. And that sugar is not only coming from your sugar added, it's also coming from the creamer. And you have the same amount of caffeine, which is 180 milligrams. So if you are like me, like to treat yourself to coffee every now and then at a coffee shop, and like Sarah pointed out, she went there and she purchased a small cup for $5, you'll be paying almost quadruple the amount of coffee, or the amount for coffee, which is $4, in comparison to if you just made the coffee at home, which is 6 cents. You also don't know how much sugar is added. You have 11 packets of sugar added in this sugar, or in this cup, and only 65 milligrams of caffeine. So when walking into that coffee shop, did you even think that I'm almost paying I'm paying $4 for a quarter cup of sugar and almost half the amount of caffeine? I'm sure no one wants to walk in there giving quadruple the amount of money for a cup of coffee that they could have paid at money at home, not giving the same benefits that a home brewed coffee would in a coffee shop. And then some people go to the convenience store and they think, oh, I'll go to the convenience store, it'll be cheaper buying my coffee, I'm only going to pay 89 cents. And I'm going to get 5 teaspoons in my cappuccino or whichever you get, and that's going to be 5 packets. But who really knows how much caffeine is in there? No one really knows. I tried to search it and look everywhere to try to find it, didn't find it. So not only are you paying 89 cents, and that seems like, oh, it's not that much, but you have no idea what's in it. You don't know what you're getting. You don't know the value that you're getting from your cost. So that's not very beneficial for your 89 cents that you're putting into it.
All right, we're going to keep you guys awake out there. So moving on to sports drinks. Do we have any athletes out there or anyone with children who are athletes or sports?
Want those all the time. They're not necessarily athletes, but
they like sports drinks. Okay. So you might have come across some of these. So we're just going to basically look through some of the ingredients and nutrients of a general sports drink here. So starting off, what do we get? We're getting some carbohydrate. And that comes here in the form of water the sucrose syrup and the glucose fructose syrup. Okay, we're moving on. We've got some preservative in this drink, and that's actually in the form of the citric acid here. It's a natural preservative. And we have our flavors. We have the natural flavors here, and it says natural grape flavor. And I think the sodium citrate, I think, is also a type of flavor enhancer as well. So if you didn't know what that was. And electrolytes, and that comes in the sodium and potassium, and it's actually down here too. We have the salt and the monopotassium phosphate. And electrolytes are good for muscle contractions and also fluid balance within us, so it's good for the athlete. Okay, and we've got our food coloring, so red 40 and blue number 1. And what I wanted to point out too is just the serving size here. We have an 8 fluid ounce serving, and in this particular container there's 4 servings, so just something to remember. Moving on, so if there was any type of overconsumption risks, we'd have to ask ourselves first, is there physical activity involved? Because if you're more physically active, we know you're probably losing your electrolytes in your sweat, and you're going to need some more energy in that carbohydrate too. So it might be beneficial for you to have one of these beverages. And consuming the whole bottle might not be an issue depending on how long you're working out. And also depending on the intake amount and whether or not, if you're just sitting on your couch having a snack, watching TV, something to keep in mind. So if we did consume this whole 4-serving bottle, we'd be getting 56 grams of sugar and about 440 milligrams of sodium. So something to keep in mind if you're drinking a whole bottle of these sports drinks here.
So when we look at the importance of our sports drink and why it's important to consume them, one of the advantages that they offer is the carbohydrate content. The carbohydrate content in sports drinks allow the water to absorb and to replenish those lost electrolytes during physical activity. And the big emphasis is during physical activity. You don't want to consume a sports drink before because you haven't lost any electrolytes or carbohydrates, nor do you really want to consume it after. And that's because, you've already done your physical activity, your fluids and electrolytes are lost. To consume a sports drink after a physical activity is kind of a waste of money. It doesn't provide the benefits that it would if you have consumed it during. One of the big pointers I ought to point out is it has no stimulants. And when I say stimulants, I mean the caffeine and the sugar that we discussed before in sports drinks. So here's a table, and it points out, though, sometimes people see, let's say vitamin water as a sports drink, and we have some sports drinks in its comparison to water. We have here 240 milliliters of a vitamin water, and let's say that's 8 ounces, and it has 1 tablespoon, which is 3 packets of sugar, and it's $1. And some people are thinking, oh man, it's just $1, that doesn't mean anything. If you bought a vitamin water or every day, 365 days of the year, that's a trip to Boca. That's money that you could have saved, really, to travel the world. Another example is some of the sports drinks. And sports drinks have 4 packets of sugar, and again, it's $1. And if you think about how often you buy a sports drink for your kids, as discussed before, or just for yourself. If not used in the proper purpose that they're for, you can almost get to $50 in a week for a sports drink. So that's pretty costly. And if we look at water, it doesn't really cost anything. It's priceless. It's in your faucet. It's in a lot of community areas, and it's free. So that's one of the things that you kind of want to think about when you're going and shopping for a sports drinks or vitamin water is it really what I need, and am I buying it for a purpose, or am I just buying it to have get my thirst up? And you could just grab water and get it for free and save your $1 and use it for a trip to Boca.
Alrighty. Oh, you're not done yet. Nope.
Sorry about that. So what I wanted to kind of also point out is some of the marketing myths. In the market, they market a lot of drinks as sports drinks. They like to market some coffee drinks as being sports drinks. They like to market energy drinks as providing the same things that sports drinks do, and which in reality it does not. Sports drinks ideally are non-caffeinated. Their real purpose is to replenish the lost carbohydrates and electrolytes lost during physical activity. One thing to also look at is when looking at the nutritional facts, you want to pay attention to their carbohydrate percentage. If it has 5% of carbohydrate, then you might, or less, you might as well save your money because it's not really going to do anything for you. Or if it has above 8% of a carbohydrate content, then it's going to be too much energy needed. And usually, it's going to function as a diuretic, and it's going to suck all that water out of your body, and you're going to develop cramps and be dehydrated. So it's not really going to help you during your physical activity because you're in pain. You're cramping out. You're not going to perform your best. And as an athlete or just an individual who's drinking a sports drink because they're doing strenuous activity, you don't want to cramp out and you don't want to feel sick. A lot of people don't like doing physical activity anyway, so you don't want to feel sick during it if you're going to drink something that's not a sports drink and not drink it within their purpose. So paying attention to what a sports drink truly is and its purpose is really important when you're shopping for sports drinks. So that's something to focus on.
Alrighty, here I'm going to move across. One of my favorite slides because of this amazing picture here of a energy drink. It's a battery. Of course, you know that. But anyway, so we're just going to take a look here at a common energy drink here. What I first wanted to point out was the FDA does not approve or review of these. So we don't really know if there's really much thought being put into this label here. Something to think about and be aware of. Another thing, too, it's a supplement, so that's why. That's why the FDA does not approve of them. But I wanted to point out these, too. So you see these ingredients here. We have taurine, we have ginseng, L-carnitine, guarana. These, from my research, there's limited evidence to actually support these claims, that these ingredients, this particular cocktail of ingredients, will give you energy and increase your mental capacity and so forth. So there's limited evidence, so something to remember there. Another thing to point out is just the serving size. A lot of these I think come in a tall can, but there are actually 2 servings in this particular can. Moving on to the sugar content, again, just pointing it out, there's about 27 grams of sugar here. So if you consume the whole entire can, you'd be getting close to 60 grams. Can anyone out there tell me how much caffeine is in this by looking at this? I can't either. I'm with you on that one. Yeah, we don't know. We don't really know how much caffeine is actually in here. And there is this little thing here, energy blend, 2,500 milligrams. So, but still, we don't know exactly how much caffeine is in here, again, because these things aren't regulated. So another thing I wanted to point out about this is that you see all the B vitamins here, okay? So B vitamins are beneficial to us. We do need B vitamins, but I wanted to point out that do we remember anything about caffeine? Well, I'll first tell you. We need water to absorb B vitamins. B vitamins are water soluble, so in order to absorb them in our bodies, we need water. Does that kind of ring a bell or anything with the caffeine? Caffeine, yep, if you remember, caffeine actually pulls water out of us. So really what might be happening is we're going to be losing a lot of these B vitamins right out of our body because they're going right along with the water that we're losing. So something to keep in mind. So moving on to overconsumption risks here, that's actually seen at around 4+ cans. And what is seen here is liver damage, kidney failure, respiratory disorders, seizures, psychotic conditions, heart attack, and even death. So pretty crazy here. But another thing I wanted to point out about these energy drinks is that sometimes either they're mixed with alcohol, they come mixed with alcohol, or young ones mix them themselves. So that's a whole other issue to think about. Okay.
So what is the purpose of an energy drink, and what's exactly and is? The purpose of an energy drink is to give a burst of energy. It's an energy drink. It is what its purpose is. But what's contained in that energy drink is those stimulants. It's that coffee and the sugar. So when you purchase an energy drink, that would be almost equivalent to drinking 4 cups of coffee, and that's only going to be like 1.5 cups of the energy drink. So this table is kind of cool. I wanted to kind of show you guys when you're drinking an energy drink or consuming a large consumption of sugar, what's its equivalence to. So if you are to have 46 grams of sugar in an energy drink, you're going to have 11.5 apple fritters. I mean, apple fritters are amazing, but I don't know if everyone can eat 11.5 apple fritters. I think I can't even eat 2. I'd probably get sick after that and be disgusted. But then what if you had 54 grams of sugar in an energy drink? You'll be consuming 3.5 crispy chocolate bars. And I know that a lot of people are chocolate lovers, and 3.5 seems like nothing because you love chocolate so much you can almost eat a whole bag of M&Ms and enjoy every minute of it. But when you're consuming those 54 grams of sugar and not necessarily thinking about the calories because everyone foresees it as empty calories, you need to think about what's its equivalent to. Those 3.5 crunch bars may sound good, but do you consume 3.5 crunch bars in one sitting? Another thing to look at is the 58 grams of sugar. 58 grams of sugar is equivalent to 6 glazed donuts. So I can give you time to ponder that a little bit. Glazed donuts are amazing, but I can't eat 6 of them. So that's something to think about. Also, if you had 62 grams of sugar, then you have 4.5 oatmeal raisin cookies. Now, I'm not a big fan of oatmeal raisin cookies, but if you are, you're eating 4.5 oatmeal raisin cookies, which is 62 grams of sugar. So this table is just a really good example to show individuals when they consume these energy drinks, either over-consume them or just consume them for that energy boost, what's its equivalent to, and if my money is actually paying for those 11.5 apple fritters, those 6 glazed donuts, and if my health is really worth all of the fluids that I'm putting in. So the marketing myth for energy drink. So as Sarah pointed out, one of the claims that energy drinks makes is that the vitamin D content will increase performance, concentration, and which is a little bit misleading. As she discussed that because caffeine has such a large sugar and caffeine content, it causes the B vitamin, which is a water-soluble vitamin, to basically just be excreted through urine or sweat. So you essentially don't get the B vitamin from the energy drink. So B vitamins do help your body use the energy from food. The emphasis is on food because an energy drink is not a food. So you're not going to receive any energy from that energy drink. You're better off getting your B vitamins from food that you consume or just taking a supplement, not from the energy drink. So I don't want people to think some of the market that they push out those B vitamins, in actuality, it's not having that much of an effect in that perspective. One of the 2 ingredients that Sarah pointed out was taurine and guarana. I apologize for that. And guarana is a native plant in the Amazon that has 5 times as much caffeine as a coffee bean. And when she pointed out that energy blend, that guarana is not factored in that energy blend. So you may have more in that energy blend than they're actually putting on their can. And because it's not, the FDA does not have to look over it, that's not something they have to tell you either. So you're paying for something and you really don't know what's in it once again. And terrain is an amino acid that's used for the development of the nervous system. And research, another thing that energy drinks, I pointed out that it also improves focus and mental and physical performance. And they pointed that towards the amino acid terrain. However, research is showing that it's not really having as much of association with terrain being the amino acid that's causing the increased focus or the physical activity. In reality, they're covering it up from saying that sugar and caffeine is causing that improvement in improvement in focus and performance with a terrain. So if I have all that sugar and all that caffeine, then of course I'm going to have a lot of energy. I mean, when you give your kids a whole bunch of sugar and they're like running around the house, they're going crazy, and you're just waiting for them to just crash and go to sleep. So in reality, what you're paying for is your sugar and your caffeine content of an energy drink, not the B vitamins, not the amino acids. So that's something to pay attention when you see those commercials, those 5-hour energies or anything like that. Pay attention to really what it's going to give you for your money.
All right, what do we got next here? Okay, moving on to fruit drinks. Now, I know we go to the store and there's a long, long aisle of fruit drinks, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's kind of overwhelming, I think. But anyway, so we're going to kind of just take a look here and compare. We have 100% orange juice here, and we have an orange juice drink made with 5% juice, and we're going to kind of compare that to just the consumption of like a whole orange. So what are we getting out of this 100% orange juice? So we have water, and it's concentrated orange juice, so that's good to know right off the bat. With the orange juice drink, we have water, high fructose corn syrup, pear juice, citric acid, ascorbic acid, yellow 5, and red 40. So can anyone tell me where the orange is? Because I don't know. It might be in the other ingredients here. We don't know, though. But something to be aware of. And another thing I wanted to actually point out was the vitamin C content. And that's actually from the addition of the ascorbic acid. So it's not necessarily a natural form of vitamin C. So comparing that to the whole orange, what are we getting out of our juice drinks? So we know we're getting sugar, of course. We can see that here. We're getting hydration. That's a good thing. We are getting some vitamins. We're getting some minerals. Okay, so that's good to know. So now comparing that to the whole orange, what are we getting here? It looks like we're actually, in the end, we're getting less calories. We're getting less sugar. We're getting more fiber, so that's a good thing. We're actually getting more vitamins and more minerals. And not only that, but we're getting the satiety and the satisfaction of actually eating an orange. So something to be aware of, just thinking about how, what you're drinking and the type of juices you're drinking and what's in them, and what we're getting out of them. So what are the possible overconsumption risks of maybe drinking too much juice throughout each day? Of course, you might get the high sugar intake, either coming from the concentrated form of orange juice that still has a lot of sugar, even though it's 100% juice, there's kind of a lot of sugar in that, or from the addition of the high fructose corn syrup or any other type of added sugar. This could potentially lead to weight gain. Of course, tooth decay, and that's a big concern with our kids. We might be getting diarrhea, actually, because there's a sugar in some fruit juices. It's called sorbitol, and we actually can't digest this particular sugar. And what it does is it holds on to the water in our digestive tract and just kind of pulls it right out. So this is actually seen, too, I think, a lot of the times in kids, too, but it can be seen in adults as well. So juice might be taking the place of whole fruits and vegetables and other whole food items as well. So there might be an issue with malnutrition. So something just to kind of be aware of when we're drinking these drinks here.
So as we look at the cost of juices, the cost of juices ranges between $1 to $6, and that depends on their production, labor, shelf life, and distribution. Most of the juices contains less amount of whole fruit and more of the artificial flavoring, corn syrup, and water, as Sarah pointed out. While the prices of juices can vary, some people have this big, they like to say that fruit juices, 100% fruit juices, are so much more than a juice drink. So I don't have enough money to pay for that 100% fruit juices, when in reality the prices are very similar, and I'll show you a slide just kind of showing some of the prices of some of those juices. But the drinks that are normally fortified with some of the nutrients that 100% juice would normally provide, so they don't have to, a drink would have to add those, where likewise 100% fruit juice would naturally have it. So when we look at the marketing myths of fruit juices, by law, the fruit juices need to contain on their label, if they're not 100% juice, a drink or drink juice, punch, or cocktail. So it's really important to pay attention to the reading the labels. And sometimes a lot of people get lost in the word juice when they see juice drink or fruit punch juice or a cocktail juice, anything like that. And they sit on juice and they think when they're buying it that they're getting that 100% juice, and they're actually getting something nutritious and something that is going to help themselves or their child. In reality, if you don't pay attention to the labels or read the label, you could not be getting the 100% fruit juice as you think when you're going to the store.
Alrighty. All right, so we're going to look at what's in a can of pop. Do we have any pop lovers? No? Okay, yeah. I like to drink it on occasion. Okay, so we're just going to take a quick look here at what we're getting out of this particular drink. Of course, we're getting the carbonated water here on our ingredient list. We're getting the sweetener, that's the high fructose corn syrup again, and there's actually more sugar too. We're getting the food coloring, that's caramel color here. The preservative, again in this case, is the citric acid. And of course, we're getting caffeine. And then we wanted to point out too the flavoring, the natural flavor. Or I might have already said that, but anyway, yeah, the preservative is, yeah, the citric acid. Okay, moving on. So possible overconsumption risks here seen in some of our pops. We're getting empty calories. So if you don't know what empty calories are, they're calories taken in without any additional benefit, no vitamins, no minerals, no protein, nothing added. So we're just getting the empty calories coming straight from the sugar here in this case. So of course we might be getting more tooth decay because of that added sugar. There's actually been a link to bone loss and osteoporosis because I don't know if you've seen, there's an ingredient, phosphoric acid, which is actually kind of gives it that extra zip. What it does is it actually holds on to calcium in our body. So it affects the absorption of calcium ultimately. So there's a link there. Of course, we're getting the side effects of the caffeine, and we know what those are. We already reviewed those. And I think, yep, okay, so weight gain, of course, because of the added sugars again. There might be weight gain. I think you're next.
So soda pop. The average 12-ounce soda pop would have 8 to 10 tablespoons of sugar in it. And if you think that you're getting away by buying a diet pop, a lot of people say, oh, I'll just buy a diet pop. You actually tend to crave more of the artificial sweetener, so you tend to drink more of the diet pop. So you're better off kind of not drinking, you're better off just getting the regular pop if you're going to consume more of the artificial sweeteners. The average sugar sweetener of a soda pop or a fruit punch provided is 150 calories, and the majority of those calories will come from your sugar and your added ingredients. So again, you want to ask yourself that when I go in the store and I'm purchasing these items, am I really wanting to get the amount of sugar that I'm getting out of it, or the amount of calories that I'm getting out of it, or the fact that I'm purchasing a soda that has other ingredients and not really knowing what the other ingredients are. As I pointed out earlier, this is a table that just shows the amount of sugar that's in different drinks, both being fruit juice and soda pops, and their cost. As I pointed out, the 100% fruit drink is not very different from the lemonade, and it's probably a 50 cents different from the fruit punch and the orange drink. So when you go into the store and you go down that long aisle of juices and you think to yourself, oh, I cannot purchase 100% fruit juice, it's 50 cents more from my fruit punch that's $1, Well, in that dollar fruit punch, you don't have any you don't have any fruit in it. You have a lot of artificial sweeteners. You have that corn syrup, and you have those additive ingredients. Likewise, in 100% fruit juice, you would have a whole fruit and your sugar content that comes naturally from that fruit, and you don't have as many of the additive ingredients in that 100% fruit juice.
Okay, probably my favorite drink, water. Good old water, the ultimate hydrator. So looking at water, we don't sometimes, we never see it as an essential nutrient, but it is. It's a macronutrient. It's very, very important for us. And as you can see here, you can't really read these little bubbles, but I think this one says lungs, brain, mouth. I think we have bladder, skin, blood, of course. So something to be aware of and to remember when we're drinking. So this is a fun fact. Adults' weight is between 60 and 70% water. That's a lot of weight. Of course, again, as mentioned before, it's involved in many body functions. So is anyone thirsty right now? No? Oh, yes? Okay. Well, if you are thirsty, you might have already lost between 1 to 2% of your total body water. So that's something to remember. Of course, with our water, we don't get any added sugars or fats. And ultimately, it can be free because I take a water bottle with me wherever I go. I get made fun of for it sometimes, but you're always prepared and you can fill up at your local grocery store or wherever there's a drinking fountain. So there's no excuse. So water's role in the body, again, it's the medium for all body fluids, our urine, our sweat. It transports oxygen, nutrients, and waste products out of the body. It lubricates the brain, joints, eyes, and spinal cord. And it's involved in most chemical reactions within the body as well. And of course, it regulates our body temperature through sweating. So, daily recommendation. Now, we lose between 2 and 3 liters a day. That's between 68 and 102 ounces. So, boiling that down into a recommendation, that's actually between 8 and 12 glasses of water a day. I know you've heard 8-ounce glasses of water a day. That might not be true. You might actually need more. So keep that in mind. And again, it depends on your activity level. If you're being more active, if you're sweating, you're going to need to rehydrate. So drink before you feel thirsty. As we know, you might have already lost some of that water. So drink throughout the day whenever you can. Just take sips. Drink first thing in the morning. You've been sleeping for 8 hours and you're going to need to rehydrate. So first thing in the morning, drink a tall glass of water, and I can guarantee you'll probably feel a little bit better and more awake. You're on.
Okay, so as Sarah pointed out, drinking water is really important. But what if you don't like drinking water, tap water, and you prefer to purchase bottles of water? So if you purchase a 24-pack of bottled water for $3.98, you're going to pay 17 cents per bottle. So let's say I don't want to buy a whole packet. I just want one. If you just buy one, you're going to be paying like $2 for a bottle of water when you could just get the whole pack for 17 cents. That saves you a lot of money. And let's say you're just tired of drinking water all day. I need something else, some other form of fluid, and I don't want to think about all the other fluids that we talked about today because now everything that they talked about is making me feel really bad about drinking all these other drinks. Well, several fruits have high contents of water as well, and that's going to be watermelon, orange, melon, cantaloupe, grapefruit. So if you are tired of drinking water, try those fruits that could be really beneficial as well. And as Sarah pointed out, water is priceless, and you don't have to pay anything for water. You can walk out the door right now and see 2 drinking fountains, fill your cup up with water, and get all the benefits that we pointed out from water before. So I know you're probably thinking, oh, we went over all these beverages, but really, do you consume any of these drinks throughout the day? So take time to think about your drink. So throughout the day, I know I consume a lot of these drinks throughout the day. So do you ever think that you're bringing in 1,370 calories a day just in drinks? And a lot of people like to push this whole, they're empty calories. That means absolutely nothing. But in that 1,370 calories a day, you almost have a half a cup of sugar. That's a lot of sugar to take in one day. you also need to pay real big attention is that the recommendation is, in a lot of the nutritional facts, is based on a 2,000 calorie diet, and drinks alone, you've probably hit over half of that. So when you're drinking and consuming any of these drinks, you should think about, if I drink that orange juice, that coffee, the soda, and this could be even one. Some people drink more than one soda. I'm consuming this many calories, and that's almost how much I'm supposed to consume a day. So that's something to think about. So does anyone have any questions for us, or? Well, I did want to point out, I remember earlier in the slide, I stated that sports drinks have caffeine in it as well, and that is not true. So I wanted to point that out so no one will write mean comments to me. So, so I wanted to thank you all for coming to our presentation. It's really nice to see familiar faces and really nice to share this information with you guys.